So we have the beginning of the Alaska quilt.
Yes.
In a world dominated by mass production and digital design, there exists a tradition where every stitch tells a story. Amish quilts, created without electricity or modern technology, have become some of the most coveted textile art in the world, commanding prices up to $15,000. While you scroll through disposable fast fashion, we're stepping into the hidden world of Amish quilting to uncover how these masterpieces are truly made. The sacred tradition, Amish quilting, isn't merely a craft. It's a 300-year-old tradition where every piece tells a story of faith and community. Each quilt embodies Gelassenheit, the Amish principle of surrender to a higher purpose. Unlike modern artists who sign their work, Amish quilters leave their creations unsigned, believing that attaching one's name promotes pride, a cardinal sin in their culture. Girls begin learning basic stitches at age 6, sitting alongside grandmothers who guide their hands. By 16, they're creating pieces for their hope chests, collections of handmade items prepared for future marriages. These aren't just blankets, they're tangible connections between generations of women who may never own a photograph of themselves. The gathering of materials. While modern quilters shop online from endless fabric options, Amish quilters follow strict community rules that would shock outside crafters. The Ordnung, unwritten community guidelines, dictates acceptable colors and materials. Most communities limit women to solid colors, deep blues, burgundies, purples, and greens, with black dominating most designs. Thread selection follows equally rigid standards, with most quilters using only black, white, or matching colors to create nearly invisible stitches, as drawing attention to the stitchwork itself represents vanity. What's particularly striking is the contrast between materials and method. Though they may purchase fabric from outside sources, the transformation of these modern materials using centuries-old techniques creates something entirely unique to their culture, design without technology. In an era where quilters use computer programs and laser-cut templates, Amish women create entirely from memory, using methods unchanged since the 1700s. Experienced quilters visualize complex geometric designs in their minds, then transfer these mental images directly to fabric through precise cutting to achieving mathematical precision that would challenge trained mathematicians. This mathematical gift develops through observation and practice rather than formal education, as most Amish schooling ends at 8th grade. Traditional designs follow strict community patterns, primarily diamond center, 9-patch, sunshine and shadow, and log cabin. While appearing simple, they achieve visual complexity through precise color placement and scale variation that creates optical illusions of depth and movement. Geometric art that rivals computer-generated designs, yet emerges from hands that have never touched a keyboard. The quilting frame, center of community. While modern quilters typically work alone with sewing machines, the Amish quilting frame becomes the heart of female community and social bonds. The traditional Amish quilting frame, a large wooden structure occupying an entire room, transforms the solitary work of piecing into a communal activity. Quilting frames accommodate 6 to 8 women working simultaneously on a single quilt, each responsible for their section but contributing to the whole. These frames, often handcrafted by Amish men specifically for this purpose, remain treasured family heirlooms passed through generations. What outsiders find most surprising is that these quilting gatherings, called frolics, serve as the primary social outlet for Amish women. In a culture without television, internet, or social media, the quilting frame becomes the center of information exchange, problem solving, and emotional support. A multi-generational space where community news travels and wisdom transfers naturally between elderly and young women. Most remarkable is the unspoken coordination that develops among experienced quilters. Without verbal direction, women establish matching stitch lengths and tensions, creating such uniform work that it becomes impossible to distinguish which sections were completed by different hands. This physical harmony mirrors the Amish emphasis on community cohesion over individual expression. For unmarried women, quilting frolics serve another crucial purpose: supervised social interaction with other young women, and sometimes distantly with potential suitors. Quilting skills are closely observed as indicators of a young woman's patient temperament, attention to detail, and preparation for marriage, qualities highly valued in Amish courtship. The hand-stitching technique. In today's world where machine quilting dominates, with industrial long-arm machines completing quilts in hours, Amish women maintain hand quilting traditions requiring months of meticulous labor. Every authentic Amish quilt contains exclusively hand stitching, not a single stitch created by machine. This hand quilting involves passing needle and thread through all three layers of the quilt: top fabric, cotton batting, and backing, using a distinctive rocking motion of the needle that experienced quilters develop over decades of practice. What makes Amish stitching extraordinary is its remarkable consistency. Expert Amish quilters achieve 8 to 10 stitches per inch, with each stitch virtually identical in size and spacing, a level of precision that museum conservators use to authenticate genuine Amish work. These tiny, uniform stitches require perfect tension control that comes only through years of daily practice. The physical demands of this work are considerable. Quilters develop calluses on their fingers from years of pushing needles through fabric layers. They work in specific positions that, over time, shape their hands and posture. Many elderly Amish women can be identified by their distinctive quilter's hands, with slightly enlarged joints and strengthened fingers that tell the story of lifetimes spent creating beauty through repetitive motion. Most fascinating is that Amish quilting techniques vary subtly between different settlements, creating regional dialects in stitching style. An experienced observer can identify whether a quilt originated from Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, Holmes County, Ohio, or Elkhart County, Indiana, by examining stitch patterns, density, and the distinctive path of the quilting lines across the surface. Time and patience. In our instant gratification culture, where most projects are completed in days or weeks, Amish quilts unfold on an entirely different time scale. A single Amish quilt typically requires between 300 to 800 hours of hand labor from start to finish, depending on size and complexity. This translates to approximately 3 to 7 months of work, when accounting for the quilter's other household responsibilities. Wedding quilts and special occasion pieces often represent over 1,000 hours of cumulative labor. Investments of time almost unimaginable in modern crafting contexts. What's particularly striking is that this slow timeline isn't viewed as a burden but as the natural rhythm of creation. Amish quilters don't rush to finish projects or count hours spent. Instead, they approach quilting as a meditative practice integrated into daily life, working steadily for 2 to 3 hours per day between other chores, often by oil lamp after sunset. The most elaborate Amish quilts, particularly those created as wedding gifts, might begin up to 2 years before the anticipated ceremony. These special projects involve multiple women across generations, with grandmothers, mothers, sisters, and aunts contributing stitches to create heirloom pieces meant to last for generations. For an Amish woman, the ability to devote substantial time to quilting signifies proper management of her household. If her other duties, cooking, cleaning, childcare, gardening, and farm work, are completed efficiently, quilting becomes her reward and creative outlet. This integration of artistic expression into a life of practical labor represents a profound difference from the modern separation of work and creative pursuits. The economic intersection. While Amish quilts begin as practical household items, they've become unexpected economic bridges between the Amish and outside world. Authentic, hand-quilted Amish quilts now command prices between $500 minus $1,500 for everyday pieces and up to $8,000 minus $15,000 for museum-quality works. This thriving market has created a fascinating paradox. Items made by people who reject materialism and worldly success have become luxury goods coveted by wealthy collectors. What makes this economic relationship complex is that most Amish women who create quilts for sale never interact directly with their customers. Instead, specialized Amish-owned shops or Mennonite middlemen handle the business transactions, allowing quilters to maintain separation from the outside world while still benefiting from their craft. The most misunderstood aspect of the Amish quilt market is the distinction between authentic Amish-made quilts and Amish-style imitations. True Amish quilts contain exclusively hand-stitching, never machine work, and are created by baptized members of Amish churches. However, many Amish quilts sold to tourists are actually produced by non-Amish manufacturers using machines, sometimes even overseas, then sold in shops near Amish communities. For many Amish families, quilt sales provide crucial supplementary income that supports farm operations without requiring men to seek factory work outside the community. A skilled quilter can contribute between $3,000 minus $8,000 annually to her family's income through commissioned pieces, often making the difference between financial struggle and stability. From birth to burial. In mainstream America, quilts might be occasional gifts or decorative items. But in Amish life, quilts mark every significant life transition from cradle to grave. An Amish person's relationship with quilts begins at birth with a small crib quilt, often in the tumbling blocks or 9-patch pattern, created specifically for the new baby. As children grow, they receive quilts marking significant birthdays and religious milestones. Young women begin creating their own quilts during adolescence, with at least a dozen completed before marriage to furnish their future homes. What's particularly moving is the wedding quilt tradition. An Amish bride typically receives between 3 to 8 new quilts as wedding gifts, each representing hundreds of hours of labor from women who know her well. The most special of these, often in the wedding ring pattern, is created by her mother and grandmothers, containing stitches from multiple generations of women from both families being joined. Throughout marriage, quilts continue marking life events. New ones created to celebrate each child's birth, house raising, or significant anniversary. But perhaps most profound is the final quilt in an Amish person's life, the burial quilt. When an Amish person passes away, they are often buried with a special quilt lining their simple wooden casket, a final embrace from the community they belong to, quite literally wrapping them in physical manifestations of their cultural values. This cradle-to-grave presence of handmade quilts creates a physical continuity through an Amish person's life journey. The same hands that stitched their birth quilt may contribute to their burial quilt decades later, creating a tangible thread connecting their entire existence. The symbolic language embedded in these life cycle quilts adds another dimension to their significance. Different patterns carry specific meanings understood within the community. Jacob's ladder symbolizes the path to heaven. Broken star represents human imperfection. Tree of life celebrates family continuity, and sunshine and shadow acknowledges life's inevitable mix of joy and sorrow. These pattern choices aren't merely aesthetic decisions, but communications of values, hopes, and prayers for the recipient at different life stages. What outsiders rarely witness is the ceremony surrounding quilt presentations. When a young woman receives her hope chest quilts around age 16, female relatives gather for a special meal where each quilt is unfolded, its pattern explained, and advice shared about its care and the life stage it represents. Similar rituals occur at house blessings, when a new couple receives quilts for their home, with specific prayers and scripture readings accompanying each gift. These ceremonies transform simple textile objects into powerful community bonds and spiritual touchstones. The most emotionally charged quilts are those created during times of crisis or loss. When illness strikes, healing quilts may be made, with specific prayers whispered into each stitch. When tragedy befalls a family, a house fire, a farm accident, or unexpected death, the community responds immediately by creating comfort quilts in record time. Sometimes completing an entire quilt in a single day, through concentrated community effort. These crisis quilts represent not just physical warmth, but the community literally piecing together support around the affected family. Perhaps most remarkable is how quilts function as nonverbal emotional records in a culture that discourages open expression of strong feelings. The careful selection of colors, the tension of stitches, and the choice of patterns become subtle expressions of the maker's hopes, fears, joys, and sorrows. Emotions that might never be verbalized, but are preserved forever in fabric and thread. Each Amish quilt, examined closely, tells not just the story of its maker's skill, but of her inner emotional life, a diary in textile form that will outlast her by generations. These intricate creations reveal a world that exists alongside our own, yet couldn't be more different in its approach to time, technology, and beauty. Amish quilters work with the same basic materials available to any modern crafter, yet produce something distinctly different through their process and philosophy. Before we dismiss their methods as merely quaint or old-fashioned, consider what these quilts represent: the beauty of slowness in a rushed world, the value of physical skill in a digital age, and the power of creating with purpose beyond self-expression. Amish quilts remind us that some of humanity's most beautiful creations emerge not from individual genius or technological advancement, but from community wisdom cultivated across generations and expressed through simple materials transformed by patient hands.
What objects in your life carry this kind of deep meaning and connection to community? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this glimpse into the hidden world of Amish quilting fascinating, hit subscribe and the notification bell to explore more extraordinary traditional crafts with us. Thank you for watching.